Talking in a moment about Starmer's migrant deal with France and whether you think this will work. Regardless of Brexit, that's all obviously done and dusted. 0207 862 2222. The Prime Minister and Macron confirmed yesterday that they'd reached a one-in, one-out agreement to begin within weeks.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal, subject to strict security checks, and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally.
The scheme, which is being trialled for the moment, could return about 50 small boat arrivals a week in exchange for asylum seekers with a tie to Britain. By comparison, a record 21,000 people have crossed the Channel so far this year. About 40,000, I think, since Labour came to power. Right. More than 200 people arrived in the UK just yesterday as the deal was being thrashed out. You laughed, Mike. Why was that?
Well, I laughed because the idea of sending 50 back when
a week,
50 back a week, when 700 arrived yesterday, the day the deal was unveiled, just shows you what a complete nonsense the whole thing is. I mean, Starmer continually called the Rwanda scheme a gimmick.
That was 300 the end.
He said
this
it's a gimmick.
A week
it's a gimmick.
With a look to increase.
This is the biggest gimmick in the history of British politics.
Paula speak.
Yeah, so Rwanda was 300 to 500 the end. What Starmer and Macron are proposing is that it starts at 50 a week.
A pilot scheme.
With a look to increase.
A pilot scheme,
That's
honestly.
the proposal. I mean, I have to say, Jeremy, me retorting back to Mike like that does not mean that I actually support this. I have a lot of reservations about this. I can't see how this is going to work.
It's not going to work.
I really can't.
Not enough numbers or what?
Just in terms of numbers, but just in terms of legality, just the basic legality of this.
That will happen every time somebody is told, right, you're going back. The legal process.
Well, let's see what you think. Why do you think it's illegal?
So just as a basic, we are a signatory of the UN Convention on Refugees. That means that when you touch soil in the UK, you can claim asylum. So we had that failed migration act that the Conservatives tried to bring in to then push through the Rwanda. And that failed on every count, and was lost in the Supreme Court when they voted against it because they said that Rwanda wasn't safe. And so any attempt legally that you are going to have to deny somebody to right to claim asylum, I mean, you're going to fall at the first hurdle.
Let's take a call. Lynn in Lancashire, do you think it'll work?
Not at all. For a start, while they were chatting away yesterday, 750 crossed the Channel. Nigel Farage was in the Channel watching the French give the migrants life jackets. And when the RNLI picked them up, they had to give the French back the life jackets. One in, one out is ridiculous. As Mike said, 50 would go back, and then they would probably come in again.
Of course they would.
Well, if the same people come in each time, you're not having new arrivals, would you? Because you'd keep sending them back. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you just don't think it'll affect the numbers.
750 come yesterday.
Yeah.
950 the other day. And did he ask him where his £7 billion went? Well, I can tell you, it was spent on helicopters, cars, motorbikes, e-scooters, quad bikes, plus surveillance equipment such as binoculars, drones and dash cams, plus microwaves and car vacuums.
For the French police.
A horse brigade in the Somme Bay.
Yeah.
Starmer is listening to Macron, who then dissed the English people for voting Brexit. He came over here on a state visit for the King, and he dissed the English people. And Starmer is such an idiot if he goes up with this, because it will not work, because for a start, the EU have got to agree to this, and they won't.
OK, well, let's pause it there, Lynn, thank you, and talk some more after the break. Do you back Starmer's one-in, one-out migrant deal with France? Will it make a difference? Maybe Stella Paula. Hello.
Hello.
And you're here because we've rung everyone in London to see if anyone supports Keir Starmer, and you do. Very much. You're very loyal to to Starmer and you believe, let's just hear, because both of our panellists are very worried about this one in, one out thing. Stella, why do you think it's the right way to go?
I think it's a huge achievement for the government that they have managed to pull off this deal. It's for over 9 years, the UK government has been trying to get somewhere with the EU and the French, and there has been no agreement in place. And even though a lot of people will say the numbers at the moment agreed on the deal is just a pilot stream, but I think it is important because it shows that there is a way where there could be a safe and legal way for people who have family over here and who have a legitimate claim to be able to come here without risking their lives on a very, very dangerous boat journey. And of course, at the same time, there are people who want to come to the UK who do not have a legitimate claim, and there needs to be a way for us to be able to cooperate with our EU partners for these people to go back.
One of the issues seems to be how, given that this is going to come under attack from lawyers, Paula, how you choose the people you send back. Could you use a lottery?
No. So yes, and you are right, there will be legal challenges, and I am of the opinion, which at the moment it's still a bit controversial, but I think the ECHR needs to be reformed. I think that there is a lot of appetite from EU countries for the ECHR to be reformed. I am completely in favour of human rights law, and I think that the ECHR should remain because the UK should continue to have a relationship with our European allies. But I think that there is a legitimate argument to be made about whether the living instrument way that judges in Strasbourg at the moment interpret the ECHR is doing more harm than good on future human rights, because it is basically making a lot of people look at having people, for example, who are pedophiles. We are not able to deport them back to their countries, and people are saying, wait a minute, I don't feel like this is protecting my human rights. I feel like this is actually infringing on my human rights. This is not what we agreed on.
OK, this morning the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, was asked to put a number on how many small boats would be sent back to France. This is what she had to say to Anna Jones of Sky News.
So you haven't decided the number that will be involved in this pilot, because the word was that it would be around 50 migrants a week. Is that the right ballpark?
No, we haven't fixed those numbers because...
But can you give us a ballpark, though, so we know the extent of this scheme?
What we will do is provide updates throughout. So we need to get this going, and we need to make sure we've got the one-for-one agreement that we made with France.
Well, Mike, they're doing their best.
No, they're not doing their best. That's the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. She was clearly short of detail on what it's all about because nobody's thought it through. You can talk about all the techniques in the world you want, but I can tell you one thing. The two people who signed this deal, Macron and Starmer, neither of them have the will to make it work. They don't want to make it work. The French will keep shoving people down to the beaches and say, go across the English Channel. It's easy when you get over there. And Macron's absolutely right. When they get here, they'll be looked after better than homeless people on the streets in this country. It's an absolute scandal that nobody's got the will to want to stop it. Macron's punishing us, and Starmer is happy to say, keep coming in, keep coming in.
OK, Peter in Northamptonshire, good afternoon, good morning.
Good morning.
What do you think, Peter?
Well, what I'd like to say, what about my human rights? I'm 80 years of age. I worked from 1960 at the age of 15 as an apprentice electrician, OK?
Yep.
I worked mostly through my working life 7 days a week. I did ghosters all the time.
Oh, you did what? So you got...
etc., OK?
Overtime
now,
work.
the situation is that I'm on a pension. Now, when I turned 80, the company said to me, or the country said to me, right, you are going to get some extra money. How much money do you think I get per week? Well, I'll tell you, 25 pence a week. It wasn't worth the letter it was written on. It's a total disgrace.
But how is this related to this one in, one out deal?
Let me finish, please, sir. If the people in France were given the same things as what we're giving them over here, at the end of the day, they wouldn't want to come, would they? This is the problem. We're giving them free taxi rides. We're giving them free everything. Free hotels, accommodation, loans.
It's true.
Paula disagrees. Peter, you've got to let Paula come in. Hang on, Pete.
Peter, I'm intrigued at your anger because, and this is, going back to what we were talking about Brexit. you were made to feel so angry with those people over there. Instead of turning around to your local MP or to whoever was in government and using that anger to challenge them about their policies and whether their policies would work. If you want to get angry with the current government, by all means do so. But what I'm saying to you is don't blame the person, the most vulnerable person who has gone through so much in an attempt to do what, Peter? To live. To earn, to work.
These people are in a safe country, and at the end of the day, they want to come here.
Peter, where do we come on the list in terms of refugees and allowing refugees in to stay? Where do we come on the list? Do we think we're top?
His point is that they're leaving a safe country.
In this country, we will not have any money left. Because we're giving it all away. You can
That's just not true, Peter. That's not
Brexit
just
was
not
the
true.
best thing that ever happened to this country.
Thank you very much, Peter. You said that Brexit was the best thing that happened?
What the French want to understand is that it was due to our soldiers and the US soldiers that stopped the French from being under the jackboot, because that's what would have happened. They would have been under the jackboot.
Okay, Peter, thank you.
Say anything at all about it.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks so much. We've got to move on, but we've gone through a whole of recent history there, and I'm grateful. Angela in Derbyshire, hi.
Hiya.
Hey, all right?
Hi, yes, thank you. How are you?
You got to follow that.
Oh, okay. I think it's quite a good idea, and I do think it probably will work, but I think we need to allow it to take time. I think like with everything, change can either be good or bad. But I think with most things, it starts off small and then it can only get better. I think I imagine it's a bit like, it's going to sound random, a bit like a record player. If you place it onto a certain track in that one groove, it will stay in that one groove, and you keep on having to lift that up to get to the next song. And we need to keep doing that, and then eventually it will make that groove deeper, and then like change is happening eventually, and slowly the new things will take place.
Okay, thank you.
It'll go back to how things were. Does that make sense? No?
Yeah, well, do you know what? I mean, we haven't had a record player analogy on the show in the last 8 years. So that is compelling. I suppose the issue with the record player is that actually being in the same groove tends to damage. Oh, no, I won't pursue it because it'll
circles.
You're too young to have listened to records, right? You've never seen a record.
Won't, but I know.
A record goes round in circles, and that's what's happening to our immigration policy. It's going round in circles. It will never be solved whilst there's no will to solve it, and there's no will to solve it.
To be fair, he's showing a will to solve it.
He hasn't shown any will to solve it.
And what's your solution, Mike?
My solution is that you get tough with the French and say you've got 700 million quid of our money. You stop them leaving the beaches in the same way that Belgium has done.
You think that would make Macron agree with you? You think you would say that to Macron and he would come back to you and say, "Oh, absolutely good, sir. We were just waiting for someone to be rude enough to us."
Hang on. I've already explained that Macron doesn't want to stop it. What I've said is we've got to get tough with the 700 million.
Do you think the UK needs the EU for anything? Do you think our economy in any way is based on the goodwill of our EU allies?
What I'm saying is the UK does not need any more people to enter this country.
Does it need access to the EU money?
We have too many people here already.
You know that's not true. Just go on the Gov website, look at the shortage of jobs.
Are you
falling apart.
Stop. Let's take a break. Wow. After the break, we're taking more of your calls on Starmer's one-in, one-out migrant deal with France, which is obviously raising a lot of other issues as well. 020. Now, more calls on whether you back Starmer's migrant deal with France. 020 7862 2222 is the number. The Reform UK leader Nigel Farage was out in the Channel. We mentioned this earlier, watching small boats make the crossing yesterday, and he was quick to criticise Starmer's deal with Macron, describing it as a humiliation. Let's listen.
Watching one government politely. The numbers will be very limited indeed. And even if it did work, where's the advantage to us? This is Brexit Britain. We voted to take back control of our borders, not to accept a deal given to us by a French president. I mean, Macron must be going back to Paris laughing, saying basically the Brits have rejoined the European Union.
God, is this... No.
I totally agree.
You agree?
Of course,
okay.
I totally agree.
Stella, your reaction?
No, I think it's so ridiculous watching Nigel Farage going there, just looking at the problem as if he has an actual practical, solvable solution for this that doesn't include something completely fantastical.
We had Andrew Jenkins in yesterday, who's obviously one of the Reform Party mayors now, and she was saying pushback is you've got to push the boats back.
Push the boats back. Okay, so that is you are accepting then that there is not a single person deserving of our help.
Well, we're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
The system's collapsed.
Mike, we are not overwhelmed in terms of refugees. And let's just make this clear, which is the point I wanted to get across to Peter.
Have you ever been to a town? Let Paula say
the point I wanted to get across to Peter. So in terms of the European Union, in terms of the amount of refugees that come to this country, I asked the question, how far up or down on the list do you think we are in top 20? How far do you think?
Yeah, but you use statistics because...
So I use statistics.
You can't compare us to France because it's 4 times bigger than us.
If you don't want to talk about statistics, let's talk about human lives.
Yes.
Okay? Because that is also what's important.
Yes.
So what you are saying to me, and what you seem to be supporting if what Andrea is saying is correct, is that you would see people who have risked their lives in their country, left because their lives are at risk, have then risked
had enough money to pay a people smuggler to get here, right?
And why is that a bad thing?
Well, it's not a
why
bad
is that
thing.
a bad
But what
thing?
I'm
Shall I tell
saying
you
is,
why it's a bad thing? Because there are no safe and legal routes for them to make it here.
Somebody comes to
there are
Somalia,
no safe
where did they get
and
the
legal
£4,000
routes
to
for
pay
them
a
to
people
come here.
smuggler?
Okay.
Are people in Somalia not allowed
Let's
to
get some calls.
the world's biggest industry.
Let's get some calls. We're talking at cross purposes, you guys. There's one data versus emotion, and then it switches around. And poor old Stella is just like watching Wimbledon here. Kath in West Yorkshire, hello.
Hello.
So, good idea, this one in, one out?
It's a bit like watching Wimbledon, actually.
With the old AI line judges, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, Mike is right, but he's wrong in one thing. It isn't a case of not having the will to sort it out. It's a case of Starmer hasn't got the backbone. And I don't think there's anyone in the whole of Parliament that's got the backbone to stand up to Macron. And he's going to be clapping his hands all the way back.
Yeah. OK, Kath, thank you. Brenda in Wiltshire, hi.
Good morning.
Do you like this deal?
No, I don't. I've got a couple of things here what I would like to mention on your show.
OK, your phone's going in and out. Give a wiggle to the cable at the bottom of your phone. There's a loose connection there.
Yeah. What I've done is use border force and not let them get into British water. I would go back on...
No, we can't hear you. Oh, Brenda. I think we're into pushback there. William in Renfrewshire. Would that be better that we just take our own measures here? We don't deal with the French. We say if you come halfway across the channel, you'll be intercepted.
Good morning, Jeremy. What I'd like to say is going to happen is that the British public, if everything goes the way it's going, Nigel Farage will be Prime Minister. Unless they make a mess of the councils or whatever they take over, the British public's now leaning towards that because they've seen in the last 20 years, although I'm not in favour of Nigel Farage, he's a snake oil salesman, the British public have seen in the last 20 years no real government. They don't seem to have a clue what to do.
Well, let me ask Stella, you think that's true? You think we're heading for a Farage government?
At the moment, maybe, but we have another 4 years. So I think that what needs to happen now is we need to have Keir Starmer do a lot of the difficult things that no other party would be willing to do.
Like what?
Okay.
Like this deal, for example, Mike, which we are
not
trying to talk down as if you have a better solution.
All right, we have to go to our break. Thank you, William. Thanks for all your calls. Thank you, Stella, for coming in.